Come on. Do I sound like I'm joking? Do I sound like I'm playing? When you look into my eyes, you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it to you slowly, and it may sound scandalous. I don't think that you can handle this.
Once again, we are on. I am the Mojo King. He is the great Mike Steph, and we are Hidden Gems Football, brought to you by the mighty 19 Media Group. Welcome to the preview of week number 10 of the NFL season. Before we start, I'd like to thank you, yes, you, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite listening platform. Hopefully it's not Spotify. They're ripping off artists. Regardless, thank you for being here. We survive, we thrive because of you. Please like, subscribe, comment, and most definitely tell a friend or two. Mike Steph, how are you today?
I'm doing okay. I wish I could say I would be better. I don't know. I think I'm getting a little cold or something. Energy level is just not great, but I'm going to persevere because that's a professional that I am. And that's what my mother would love me to do. Hence, why today I'm Glenda's baby boy.
You know, I'm not going to get into it right now. Give us Mike Steph's one big thing for the week.
Normally, we usually give our predictions at the very beginning of the year, but we're not like everybody else. We're unique. So I'm giving my mid-season predictions on who I believe is going to represent each conference. Out of the AFC right now, you have Baltimore 7-2 and looking like a juggernaut for real. You have Kansas City at 7-2 and looking very vulnerable, but they always do this for the last couple of years. They look vulnerable, but the record says otherwise. And then you have the upstart, matter of fact, not the upstart, but the slow starting Cincinnati Bengals at 5-3. I consider those the top three teams in the AFC. Now on the NFC, you have the Eagles at 8-1, fresh off their victory against arch nemesis, the Cowboys. You have Detroit coming off, licking their wounds after getting their you-know-what whipped against the aforementioned Ravens. I think they're 6-2. And then you have the 49ers also licking their wounds coming off a bye at 5-3. I consider those the top three teams in the NFC. So I break it down like this. In the AFC, it's like a gauntlet. Who do I think is best served to come out that gauntlet? Would it be the Ravens? Yeah, the Ravens looked the part, but they really haven't had playoff success in recent years. Would it be the defending champion Chiefs? I think for some reason, their time might be running out. And Joe Burrow is looking like that dude like he normally does in October, November. So right now in the midway point, my selection to get out of the AFC would be the Cincinnati Bengals. I know I got this jet paraphernalia on, but we're not talking about them this week. Now, in the NFC, I swear, this is going to kill me. The 49ers, the warts are starting to come out, i.e. injuries. They're being, Purdy has come down to earth, so to speak. I still have faith in him, but he was never as great as people were trying to portray him to be. Detroit, I don't know if they got enough bite in their teeth to bite off the kneecaps of the rest of the conference. And the Eagles, they were there last year. They look poised to repeat. So, at this point in time, in my midway pick to get into the Super Bowl, I would say we're looking at a Philly-Cincinnati Super Bowl. I'm going to reserve judgment on who I'm going to pick to win. But right now, though, they look like they're on a collision course, barring injury. Now, you got the knee problem with Jalen Hurts, but he's still playing, and they keep on chugging along. So, yeah, right now my midway pick for a Super Bowl matchup would be the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's really my one big thing.
Yeah, just a couple weeks back, I think the picks would have definitely been different. Well, certainly on the AFC. So I like your picks right now. I feel like in 3 weeks, we're going to have completely different picks.
I'm putting you on the spot. If you had to pick right now, because you're not going to leave me on this ledge. If you had to pick right now, who would you choose? Remember, it's halfway point. Just like you said, things could change. Things change in 3 weeks. Because my top 5 list is pretty much obsolete right now.
This is Mike Steph's big thing. I'm not supposed to.
My one big thing is tossing it over to you.
Actually, I like your Bengals pick. I think I'd go Bengals 49ers. I think they'll figure it out. Even if they have to Jimmy G it the rest of the season.
They got 2 of them.
Shoot, the Raiders might want to give him back at this point. Anyway, let's move on to Thursday Night Football. And as always, Thursday Night Football comes through with the best of the best game. The 1-7 Carolina Panthers are heading to Chicago to face the 2-7 Bears. The total is expected to be 38.5 points, with the Bears 4-point favorites. That means that Vegas is saying that the Carolina Panthers will score 17.25 points, while the Bears score 21.25 points. As far as injuries, Carolina has a couple. DJ Shark has an elbow injury. He did not practice, but I think he's been playing through that injury lately, so I guess he's likely to go. On the defensive end, linebacker Brian Burns is unlikely to play, while defensive backs Xavier Wood and CJ Henderson are questionable. With the Bears, Khalil Herbert has been on IR. It looks like he's coming off. He's been fully practicing, so he will probably play this Thursday. Justin Fields has been limited in practice for the last couple weeks. He's still questionable. Center Nate Davis is questionable. Linebacker Tremaine Edwards with his knee injury is day-to-day. And that is it as far as injuries. Like Steph, what do you think about this game? Carolina, Chicago, one of them has to win.
It's a reoccurring nightmare, these Thursday night games. But the Panthers are coming off a drubbing at the hands of the Indianapolis Colts in a game that was actually worse than the 27-13 score. Rookie Bryce Young threw 3 picks, including 2 pick sixes, 2 returned for touchdowns. You know their leading receiver is the old sage, Adam Thielen, having a resurgent year at 62 catches. Carolina to me, and this is where my editorial skills are going to come in. Carolina to me is getting exactly what they deserve. First, they got rid of Steve Wilkes after a great job last season in the interim basis. He kept them in a hunt for the postseason until like the second to last game of the season. Then they hired retread head coach Frank Reich after he got dumped by Indianapolis in the middle of the season and replaced by a guy fresh off of ESPN studio. You got fired for someone who had never coached before. And then lastly, hindsight is 2020. But if you could go back to the NFL draft, do you think they would have made a different decision? Remember, they had the top pick. They traded to get into the top pick. And they might have chose the wrong QB. Because Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, it's looking like this right now. And we'll get into CJ Stroud in a very few minutes. But what's really holding back this team, besides the numerous messed up decisions that they made, is the defense. The defense is giving up 28 points a game. And that really puts added pressure on their already tentative rookie quarterback. Now, the Bears at least kept things interesting last week against the Saints, losing 24-17. But they were ultimately undone by Tyson Bagent's mistakes. He almost single-handedly undid my parlay by coughing it up late in that game inside the 20-yard line. Only by the grace of Dennis Allen did they decide to sit on the ball and just be content with their 7-point victory, even though the Bears did cover the spread backside. The only positive I could say right now is at least they're number 4 in rushing in the league. Talking about the Bears, they're averaging 134 yards a game, and I think I might have talked too much about these two teams right now because tell you the truth, they don't really deserve all the time that we just gave them. So, my picks. I guess not Carolina. Carolina, whew. Chicago. I'm going Chicago for the win. If Justin Fields is able to play, it's a no-brainer. If they still decide to hold him out because it's a short week, I think they have enough on the offensive side to take advantage of this porous Carolina defense. So Chicago will be my money line pick. Chicago will be. I think they're gonna cover the spread. And as for that over/under, I'll go under because it seems like a lot of teams. The trend this year has been under, and neither one of these teams, even though they got porous defense, I don't think either one of the teams has an offense that can exploit the other. So under, Chicago for the win.
I think I'm allergic to this game because I've been having a coughing fit over here. Thank goodness for the mute button. But I'm pretty much in line with you. Neither one of these teams have looked good. But Carolina's looked significantly worse. They're 0-4 on the road, 1-4 in their last 5 games. That one was a win against Houston, 15-13.
Go figure.
Bryce Young, I don't think has many weapons on his side here. Everything about that offense looks like a train wreck, honestly. While the Bears do have pieces, even though they haven't exactly gelled. So I'm with you. I'm going Bears. Actually, I feel like they're going to win by 14 points. By 4 points. I feel like it's going to be 17-13, something like that. But I'm going to take the Bears with the points if I have to, so -4. Also, I'm going under. I just don't see how it goes over. I do have a question for you, Mike Steph. As far as survivor picks, we're getting towards the time that it's tough to figure out who to pick. You can't pick the guaranteed wins anymore, for the most part. Would you try to sneak in a Bears pick here? Do you think it's worth the gamble?
That wouldn't be the worst idea, is to try to sneak it in. But it would all. Let's put it this way. I would go 70-30 in favor of using the Bears this week. But I think I do have one on a schedule that you might be able to pick, or you might be a little bit more confident in, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, it wouldn't be the worst idea.
All right. Yeah, I think looking at the full schedule, there's one obvious pick. We'll see if it's the same one. We're talking about the same one. And if you don't have that option, maybe it's worth the gamble. I'm still considering it. I'm a little scared because I just want to get bounced picking the Bears, man. I've been doing pretty good this season, and if I get bounced picking the Bears in week 10, I'm just going to be kind of upset with myself.
You see, it's one of those, like, it's there for the taking, but it's like, I don't know. Matter of fact, even though I do all this slander at Carolina, just real quick. If you look at the stats, and I know stats can be deceiving because a lot of it probably was garbage time stats. But if you look at the stats from Carolina's game last week against the Colts, they actually outgained the Colts in multiple categories. It was the 2 pick sixes that did them in. So that would be the one caveat of, they don't have 2 pick sixes. It's actually a tie game. Just saying.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's Ricky from Late Night Lake Show. A new NBA season has arrived, and there's no better time to be following the brand. From weekly podcasts and live streams featuring some of the biggest names in the NBA social world to viral Twitter spaces and engaging articles. If you bleed purple and gold and love good content, then Late Night Lake Show is the brand for you. Follow us on Twitter at Late Night Lakers and on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, or wherever you get your podcast at Late Night Lake Show. It's premium Lakers content brought to you by some of your favorite and best personalities in Laker Nation. It's about to be another crazy season this year, but one thing is for certain. If it's happening and involving our Los Angeles Lakers, Late Night Lake Show is going to be covering. So come check us out. We'll see y'all on the timeline. Peace.
The 4-5 Indianapolis Colts are going to be the road team against the New England Patriots, who are 2-7. The Colts are 1.5-point favorites. All right. As far as injuries, there's not much to report, but there is one major injury. For the Colts, Josh Downs, who's been one of their primary receivers, he has a knee injury. He had a knee injury going into last game. Then last game, he came out of the game. And everybody seems to act like the knee injury happened last week, but he was already... Anyway, he's definitely hurt with a knee injury. He's questionable to play this week. And you have to wonder, even if he does play, how effective he'll be, because it didn't work out very well last week. I think he had one catch. Mike Steph, what do you think about this game? Colts, Patriots, Germany.
The Patriots are en route to their worst season in over 20 years. Their loss against the Commanders followed the script that's been ongoing this season. Stay close, defense keeps them competitive, and then Mac Jones makes the costly mistake at the end to put the nail in the coffin. 3 of their last 4 games have been decided by 4 points or less. I don't know what that means. That means at least, the spread could be in play. But yeah, it's just one of those. To me, this is one of these years that every break that Bill Belichick used to get in his 20-some-odd years of coaching experience has gone against them in one season. And not to get too much into it, but there had been a debate for the last couple of years. Who's responsible for the success of the Patriots? Who's responsible for the dynasty? Was it Belichick or was it Tom Brady? Needless to say, Tom Brady bounced out of New England and got himself a ring by his lonesome. Bill Belichick is struggling to keep his head above water. Now, the Colts beat the aforementioned Panthers this past Sunday, breaking a 3-game losing streak. The Colts are going to ride behind the running of Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor if they want to be successful, in my opinion. But none of this matters if the defense does not improve immediately. Before the Panthers game, do you know they have been giving up 38 points per game in the 3 prior games? 38 points per game. I think they gave up 37 in one, 39 in another, and 38. So, who am I going to pick? Well, I'm not picking the Patriots. I'm picking the Colts. The Colts have a better team. I'm not saying they're better coached, but at this point in time, you could say there's an argument that they're a better coach team than the Patriots. They have a better quarterback in Minshew. Nobody's picking Mac Jones over Gardner Minshew, and Gardner Minshew, for what he is, he's a backup quarterback. But maybe Mac Jones is a backup quarterback as well. Now, as for the over-under, I'm going under because the Patriots can't score at all. But their defense will limit the Colts scoring. And the Colts, for them to be successful, as I just mentioned, they should concentrate on the running game. Now, the running game is starting to shift from Zach Moss to Jonathan Taylor as in usage. And due to that big contract, I can understand why, but I'm not going to lie. The record was better with Zach Moss was the bell cow in absence of Jonathan Taylor. Just saying. So, the Colts, money line. The Colts cover the spread. And the over-under, I'm going under.
It's interesting because, as you mentioned, Bill Belichick is not catching breaks this year. This is one of those games that he would focus on stopping the run and also confuse the quarterback. And that's how his defense would win this game for him. Just can't expect it to happen this year because it hasn't happened so far. So I like what you said. I like the Colts. 1.5 points. That's not much. So that's easy for the spread. I feel like Minshew's going to mix it up enough that they're going to end up over, though. All right, let's move over to the mainland. We have the 4-4 Houston Texans coming off a big victory. They are facing the 5-3 Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are 7-point favorites, and the total's projected out to be 48.5 points. As far as injuries, Houston's Dameon Pierce, the running back, is questionable with ankle injury. He did not play last week. Meanwhile, Robert Woods, wide receiver, is also questionable. He has a foot injury. He also did not play last week. Definitely not playing this week is their kicker. Fairborn is out for at least the next 3 weeks. They signed Matt Amendola. He's on a practice squad. It's assumed that he will end up being the kicker for the week. On the defensive end, Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle, has a knee injury, and Jimmy Ward, strong safety, has a hamstring injury. Both of them are questionable as well. On Cincy's side, there's not many injuries, but there is a big one. Jamar Chase has a back problem. He played through it last week, 4 catches, 41 yards, but they're saying it got worse as the game went on, and he was really sore the day after the game. So he's questionable, and you have to wonder if he does play, if he will be effective. Mike Steph, this has all of a sudden, because of last week's action, become one of the marquee matchups. Do you think the 4-4 Texans can defeat the Bengals?
Actually, I think they have a very good chance in doing so. It has nothing to do with Jamar Chase's injury. I believe if he's able to play, just the threat of him being on there will open it up for everybody else. Because think about it this way. He had 4 catches, 41 yards, and yet Joe Burrow threw for, 3 and change last week without him. But he just needed him on the field just for that decoy section. Now, for the Texans, they pulled out an incredible last-second come-from-behind victory against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the arm of rookie sensation C.J. Stroud, who threw 5 touchdowns, including the game winner with under 20 seconds remaining. For the season, C.J. Stroud has 14 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's right, 1 interception. DeMeco Ryans has to be the front runner for Coach of the Year so far. Nico Collins and Tank Dell have benefited greatly from the QB play of Stroud. That's why Robert Woods' absence, mere bag of shells. Now, the Bengals are back on their, after getting off to a typical slow start. They have run off 4 in a row, which coincides with Joe Burrow getting his calf healthy. Smells to me like they're going to end up right where they're accustomed to being, and that's in a championship game, vying for a berth in the Super Bowl. They humbled the Bills yet again this past Sunday night, and that's coming off the heels of rolling into the bye and pushing the 49ers around in their own crib. 7 touchdowns and 1 interception in the last 3 games by Mr. Joe Cool. Now, with all that being said, they're only averaging 19.5 points a game for the season, and they're currently last in the league in rushing with 75 yards per game. So it comes down to this. I believe the Bengals are going to win, but that 7-point spread to me is way too big. So I'm going Houston against the spread, Bengals money line, and that over under, I'm going over because I think this has a potential to be a shootout.
All right. This is much more fun. I think I stopped coughing, and I disagree with everything you said.
Of course you do.
Okay. Well, not everything. Stroud looked amazing last week. If you go all the way back to the preview shows, I was pointing out that I think he was a little bit more capable than they were giving him credit for. I could show you my best ball evidence too, because I'm kicking some booty because I have Stroud. I think Stroud is really talented. I think this team has a bright future, but I have an issue. If you take out what happened last week, amazing game. That team hasn't been scoring very much. They scored 13 versus Carolina. They scored 20 versus New Orleans. And then I think they scored 19 the game before that. Meanwhile, Cincinnati held Buffalo to 18, held San Francisco to 17, and held Seattle, who kind of looks like a disaster now, but held them to, I believe, 13. I think Cincinnati's defense is pretty good. And I think the Texans, despite what happened last week, aren't really a team that tries to run up scores. They don't want a high-scoring game. They're defensive-minded. This game absolutely shouts to me under. Unless Cincinnati blows them out. It's a possibility to me. I don't think it's going to happen, though, but I think they'll win by more than 7. I think they're going to clearly win this game. It's going to be a team that is established and you know what they are against a team that's up and coming that's not quite there yet. And I think it's going to show this game. So I got Cincinnati with the -7 points. I still think they're going to win over that. And I got the under. I just don't think the Texans are going to score very much this week. And as a matter of fact, I will say that there's an obvious game that if you have them in Survivor, I think you kind of have to do it. And that's Dallas. They are 16-point favorites over the Giants. I think you have to take that one if you have it. If not, it gets kind of tricky, I think. I might sprinkle in Bengals here and there. Like, I don't think I'll put it on my main team, but like I'm pretty confident they're going to win this game.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gimmick Infringement podcast. I am Brad Winchester.
And I am Tyler McDowell Blanken. Join us every week on GI, where we talk about what happened in pop culture, our lives, and most importantly, professional wrestling.
All right, let's move over to Monday Night Football. Dun, 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 dun. The Denver Broncos are heading to Buffalo to face the Bills. The total is projected at 46.5 points, and the Buffalo Bills are 7.5-point favorites. That means that Vegas is saying that the Broncos will score 19.5, while the Bills will score 27. As far as injuries, on the Broncos side, nothing. The one thing they have is safety Kareem Jackson has been suspended. I believe this is the game he comes back now after his suspension was reduced. On Buffalo's side, Knox is still out, the tight end, which just means more Kincaid. On the defensive side, cornerback Terrell Bernard has had a concussion. I think he was out last week. He's questionable for this week. And Micah Hyde came out of the last game because of a stinger. He is also questionable. Pretty healthy teams. Mike Steph, what do you think about this game? Do the Broncos have a shot against the Bills in Buffalo?
You know, this is going to surprise a lot of people, but this is actually the game that I was referring to with my surprise survivor pick. Now, against my better judgment, a lot of times when Buffalo has one of those bad losses, they usually come back with a vengeance. But they've been so schizophrenic, and once again, their defense is still in shambles, dealing with injuries in the secondary and so forth. Even though they're healthier than they've been, but still, it's going to take a while for them to get on track. The Bills, like I said, the Bills came off a 24-18 loss against the Bengals on Sunday night. It was yet another game with Josh Allen shouldering the load for the team. As usual, he was the leading rusher again, but outside of the first drive, to me, he wasn't able really to put anything together consistently. Of course, he had that one big interception. Now, for the Broncos, they're coming off a bye, but their last game before the bye was 24-9 victory against the defending champs, Kansas City Chiefs, in which they snapped a damn near 7-year losing streak against Kansas City. Now, the much maligned Broncos defense has allowed 14 points per game in their last 3 games, 2 of which have been wins. After a fast start, Russell Wilson hasn't thrown for more than a $190, $197 to be exact, in the last 4 games. But he has, in that span, he has 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I don't know. I just had this feeling that Buffalo is in shambles. I think there's still some dissension in the ranks between Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Yeah, I know. I'm actually sowing the seeds of dissension because we got them on our schedule coming up. But like I said, we're not talking about them this week. I don't know. It's really a hunch. It's Monday Night Football. I think Sean Payton, even though he has been an a-hole the majority of this season, I believe he's gonna devise a way to move the ball against this Buffalo defense. And I think the defense on the Broncos side will be able to stifle the Bills just enough to get a victory. So I would say the Broncos for the win. Evidently, the Broncos to cover the spread. And the over-under, I'm going under. That's Mike Steph's first pick of the week.
All right, just to clarify,
yeah,
because you mentioned Survivor,
mm-hmm.
You, Mike Steph, would take Denver in a Survivor this week.
Yeah, I actually feel more confident in Denver perhaps winning than Chicago winning because at least Denver in the last 3 games, their defense is kind of solidified. So Russell Wilson isn't the spectacular Russell Wilson from the Seattle days, but he's playing complimentary football. And I think if they could beat Kansas City and hold them to 9 points, I believe they can go in to Buffalo when Buffalo's reeling and beat them. So this 7.5, let's put it this way. I'm going Survivor for Denver, but if I was just strictly betting, that's 7.5. Buffalo's not beating them by 7.5. But yeah, for the record, yes, I would pick them for a Survivor.
Okay. Outside of picks, I actually agree with pretty much most of what you said. Buffaloes look like they struggled. The Broncos have been putting the pieces together. I don't think that the public at large is necessarily noticing, particularly the Broncos side. So the 7.5 seems like too much to me too. I like the under. I think you would have to be completely insane, though, to take the Broncos in Survivor. That would be crazy.
But if it pays off, it would be ingenious thinking.
You know what? I'm not going to question the genius. Just guys, don't do it. Don't do it.
These thoughts and picks are Mike Steph's and Mike Steph's alone. They take it at your own peril. But next week, best believe, if they do come up with the upset, that would be the first thing I'm leading off with. And that's Barry Horowitz style.
With that, do you have any other games of interest this week?
Only because I can't avoid talking about them because I've been slitting them here and there, and I'm kind of wearing them on my chest. The Jets traveled to the desert to go against the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday Night Football, much to the chagrin of the entire country, especially after this last primetime outing that we had this past Monday, which is a total waste of 3 hours and change of my life. This is a must win on the Jets' behalf. We have to beat the Raiders strictly for standing wise, because if we lose against the Raiders, we're 4-5. The Raiders are 4-5 now, so that'd be 5-5, and they'll have the tiebreaker on us. So pretty much we'll lose. So I would go under. I would say, since it's pretty much a pick-em, you might as well go with the Jets, because I believe the Jets defense more than the Raiders defense. So yeah, that would be my game of interest. And of course, it's totally biased because it's just like, look at me. I'm a walking billboard. Who did you think I was going to pick the Raiders? But yeah, that's my other game of interest.
Zach Wilson's really bad. And they refuse to try Trevor Siemian. And I can't even believe that we are at the point that we're like, please, Trevor Siemian. The Jets defense is elite, so yeah, I can see why you do that, but I don't know. I would lean Raiders. But my game of interest, actually, because I deep dove this game for no reason, is the Packers versus the Steelers. The Packers have looked terrible. The Steelers play tough, hard for every week, but they've been winning. So I like Pittsburgh -3. That is my game of interest that we are not talking about, but we are talking about. All right, Mike Steph. Get us out of here.
All right. Normally, I don't do this because I just feel like it's just kind of pointless and plugging. But I would like to plug the audio edition of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast, available on all streaming platforms where podcasts are available. Episode dropped early this morning, late last night. Sprinkle of salt with more uncensored thoughts on this past Monday night's Jet fiasco, and my thoughts on why everybody who's hoping and wishing that they're going to bench Zach Wilson, that's not in the cards whatsoever. It's as Rick Ross would say, it's deeper than rap. So, but with all that being said, I'd like to thank each and everyone for joining us. Check out the myriad of podcasts available on the 19 Media Group YouTube page. Check out all the podcasts that are available on streaming platforms wherever podcasts are available. But just check out the 19 Media Group and you'll be glad you did. With all that being said, Hidden Gen Football, it's a part of Ooh. Bye,
folks. This one. I need some tea too.
This is a 19 Media Group presentation.
Didn't you say you weren't feeling well? Why am I coughing?
I think it's the fact I'm using touchscreen. I must have touched the screen and gave my germs to you.
See, we truly are partners. Sympathy pains. All right. We have the yeah. It's going to be one of those shows. All right.
Booty.
Yes. That's right. Gosh shucks. All right. So I'm feeling like Ned Flanders over here. Let's just use sign language the rest of this.
What happened?
We're just going to use sign language the rest of this podcast.
Just make sure.
Hope you're watching.
Make sure you don't put up the wrong sign.
Maybe I should put the line underneath. I got to say, this show has been a disaster so far. You know, I'm not going to get into it right now, but you did something a week or two ago that caught my wife's attention with the little headline. And it was interesting because I didn't notice it the whole time.
Joe Braxton?
What was
Freshly
that?
Squeezed.
Freshly Squeezed. That's what it was.
It was purely innocent, say the truth. It really was. They can have many connotations, but my intent was pure. Not to get too much off the beaten path. This is wrestler on AEW named Orange Cassidy, and his nickname is Freshly Squeezed, hence Orange Cassidy. So yeah, that's actually where I got it from, Freshly Squeezed. He's just so nonchalant. If you notice at the very beginning when we're doing the intro, I give like a half-ass thumbs up because that's one of his trademarks. Is like he just doesn't care so much, but to give a straight thumbs up, so it's more like a limp thumbs up. Yeah, Freshly Squeezed.